In this video, I will go over the instructions for the Wordpower project. So the idea of this project is to develop conceptual thinking as a graphic designer. The way that you'll do it in this project is you will manipulate a word. Choose a word that you can just do a slight modification to it and give it the power of a symbol. The modification will be modest, just enough to communicate the idea, but the letter form should retain most of their characteristics and original form. So in other words, it doesn't want to look like we did this in an illustration class, but rather a graphic design class where most people who are graphic designers would be impressed by your work if you did the absolute least you could to still get the idea across, which means that it is really an exercise in brain power. It's going to be about 90% conceptual and 10% formal. And also the work that you put into this project will be the same, that you're going to spend about 90% of your time trying to come up with ideas, finally coming up with ideas, and then about 10% of the time getting on the computer and executing the idea. So in order to get there, you're going to truly have to flush out hundreds of ideas to get past the trite and cliche ideas and get to something that is really unexpected, thought-provoking, engages your audience, lets them feel like they are part of the design. It's kind of like if you've ever had someone tell you a joke and then all of a sudden they get that look on their face like they finished the joke and they're expecting you to laugh and you don't get it and you're nervous, and then all of a sudden you get it, and then because of that little nervous moment or that little hesitation before you got it, you now think that's the coolest joke ever and you go on to tell people. So that's the same thing when you can make your audience look at your work, not, oh, I had to think a little bit, but now I get it. They feel like you and them have a connection now. They're more likely to stay engaged with your work and get the true meaning, especially if it's for a client. Um, so this is not a wordplay project, and I'll show you some examples here. Now, what I'm showing you here in Photoshop has nothing to do with the project itself, just more about generating ideas for the project. Keep in mind, right now I'm showing you what this project is not, but every now and then I get a student that does these, so I just want to make sure that you know what not to do. Years ago there was a bunch of emails or even printouts going around of these things. I don't know if you still see them every now and then, but there'd be like a whole page of these. If you stared at this a while, stand under I, you come up with I understand. So that's one example of what this project is not. Here's another example of what it is not. You make a big world and then you put peace next to it. No, not compound word generation. And I will show you some good examples in just a second here. Process will be extremely important in this project. You need to use every means possible to come up with ideas like free association, which is kind of like that thing you do in a writing class before you write. You just start writing down everything you can think of. But here you don't even know what you're going for, which is what makes it the most difficult. But rather than doing nothing and feel frustrating, just start writing down a whole bunch of words, or even better, make a mind map, which I will show you how to do in a separate video. Even just looking through an old-fashioned dictionary, if you can find one, or a dictionary online, an idea for this project may pop into your head. However, do not, and I'm really saying this for your benefit, don't search the internet for projects like this, because the more that you look at that have already been done, the harder it's going to be for you to find a unique one. So what you want to do is come up with ideas on your own. The first, few ones that you think are good may have been done a bunch of times, so you can look up your idea to see if it's been done a zillion times. But probably with the power of the internet, most of the ideas that you come up with have probably been done by somebody at some time. So um, you may not even want to do that at all. You may want, and that's why we do this process check first, so that you can come up with 10 what you think are great ideas out of the hundreds that flash through your brain, or 50, 60 that you wrote down, and you separate it out to your 10 best. And then I can tell you, well, I've seen this one a lot before, or hey, that's a pretty unique solution, and so on. Now, you are required to come up with 2 solutions for this project, and the way that you will work on them and turn them in is you'll set up one Illustrator file with multiple artboards on it. Each solution will be on a separate artboard, and that goes through the whole time you're working on this. The more clutter you put on one artboard, the less we can get our mind wrapped around it and see if it's a good solution. So the good news is the artboards in Illustrator are free. Use lots of them, and I will show you how to set this document up as well. Put your strongest solution once you're done. Make sure that that's all the way over to the left. Keep a minimum of 2 inches between artboards. When you are 100% finished with your 2 solutions, do the following, and this assumes after you've cleaned up the document. You will copy each artboard and its contents, label the new artboard as outlined, outline the fonts on the new artboards that you just created. These steps are explained in this video right here on this page. The final project will be printed. However, pay attention, if you're online class, you may not have to print this one. But the key thing is the document will be set up using only black. No color, no gray, no gradients. The trim size of the document is 11 by 11. And if you are required to mount the project, you only have to mount the best solution. Each solution will have visual balance. It will have an appropriate amount of white space around it, and I will give suggestions of that in the upcoming videos, and then examples of student work. Let's look at some of those and see what is significantly good about these. So you see the word almost tuna. Is that tuna? Well, it looks like tuna at first, but then you realize it's an F turned upside down, but you see it small down towards the bottom. And then you realize that what the person is doing is they're not just showing you the word tuna and making it look like a fish. What they've actually done is gone way beyond here, and they've shown you the act of fishing. So they used an F here because it looked more like a hook, put a simple line to it, so it works really good within the project guidelines. It's a modest change to the word. It's not about it being an illustration. It's very conceptual. And as I will explain in an upcoming video, it's not one-to-one, the concept, meaning you're not saying tuna and showing tuna. Like you might write out the word ball and change the A to a ball. That's pretty lame. Or the word flower and change the circle of the flower to look like a flower. If you're saying and showing the same thing, it's probably not good enough. Now, at first look, you might say, this is one-to-one. They're saying clock and they're showing a clock. But are they really? If they would have just put a clock inside the O, I'd agree with you. Yeah, kind of lame, nothing special. But what they did here is they're actually showing us hands. So it's a much broader statement, and the manipulation is so simple that all they had to do was remove something. So very powerful again. Here is almost like a word play, but it's not. I mean, it's just the word textbook or textbooks, plural, and the S is replaced with the $sign, or it could even be the original S with just a line running through it, which is often much better because it's an even lesser of a manipulation. This one, pause and see if you even get it, because I found in the classroom that about 40% of people don't get it initially. But once you get it, it's like that joke where you were nervous about at first, then you're like, wow, that's pretty powerful. So I'll explain it now. You have to personify this word, like turn it into a person, and then think of the person as standing up, this being the midsection of the person, and so now you see a belly on the person, and you're like, oh. And what's so great is it's not one-to-one either. You're not like saying mom and showing a mom. You're actually showing someone that is pregnant, and so it brings on the whole connotation. Maybe they're not a mom yet. Maybe this is their first baby, and they're about to be a mom. And that's where it gets deep and conceptual. Famous graphic designer Herb Llewellyn had several of these that were very powerful. He had the mother and child where the ampersand is inside of the O, which makes it look extremely um, here we go. It's just such a beauty to the way that it fits in there. So he obviously didn't pick the first font that he ran across on his computer. He worked and worked till he found an O and an ampersand that worked together beautifully. There's also this families that he did where right in the center you have a family. Looks like the father, the mother, a child. And these weren't just a little exercise that he did. These things were either for magazine articles, or one of them was even a logo for a magazine. And when you first start working on this project, don't do it in a program and use actual letters. You can go inside Photoshop and just start sketching things out or on paper, kind of like what I was doing in Photoshop. I want to give you something to think about between this and the next video. Um, do you think this is a good solution if we just simply say, oh, we can just add a little tie and a little string and balloons? No, I mean, it's okay. It's not something you probably see every day, but it's still one-to-one in that you're saying balloons and you're showing balloons. So what I want you to do is first realize that getting these ideas out is an excellent starting place. Get out all of your initial ideas that come to you. Don't judge them. Then you can go through and you can look at them and you can say, okay, that was a pretty okay idea, but it's one-to-one. But what if I found another word that has an O or another letter that I could turn into a balloon so that I wouldn't be saying balloon and showing balloons, so it wouldn't be one-to-one. I could pick another word that people associate with balloons and then make a balloon in it, and then pretty soon it takes on a whole new powerful meaning. I'm saying whatever the new word is you come up with, I'm showing balloons, but the meaning is boom, and now you're on a whole new level of thinking. Don't just stop at one. See if you can come up with 3, 4 different words that you could stick a balloon in and make it come out with, I am showing this word. In other words, I'm saying this, I'm showing the balloon, and my message is. And if you can do 3, 4 of these with just this word, then imagine what you'll be able to do with your own list of words once you get generating ideas.